the allure.
And I've actually got, I've got it on. I've got Chanel Allure on.
Kate also has the allure.
I also have the Allure. And
Because how can a Kent... Well, it's not a Kent, is it?
What did I say when you walked in with it? As soon as you walked in.
You said it smelled like an 80s disco.
Yes.
It absolutely does.
And Kate followed that up with...
What's your name? What is it?
Weight of yarn. So I actually plumped for, I think it's 152 that I cast on.
But we'll just have to look at that one next time. Oh, sorry, Mr. Sheep. I appear to be disturbing
I'm
you.
going to make a note of the word plumped.
Plumped.
I like it.
Oh, good.
And I want to use it more in conversation.
Okay.
I feel like Colonel Melcher in Blackadder 4.
Quiet time, aren't you? I'll see you later.
Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show featuring, drumroll please, and it still frustrates me to this day that I don't have access to, it needs to be a timpani roll. I need to speak to, of all the software and all the things and all the stuff that, my wonderful brothers... Do you see any timpani in the house, my darling?
Are those great big things?
Yes.
Oh, no, then we don't have
Kettle
those.
drums.
Oh, we don't have those.
But what is today's show featuring after my timpani rant? Walking the Dales. It's back, baby, after a mid-season break, way longer than we expected, for all the reasons which we covered in the last episode. Finally, it's returned, and we promised that it would be worth the wait.
Yep.
And my goodness, it was. And I'll tell you for why. Because there's stately homes, there's ancient trackways, there's Viking swords, and there's more sheep than I think I've ever seen in my life.
Yep. And we tried to guess at the breed of sheep, but likely we're wrong, so...
I'm not sure what else it could be other than some sort of breed. A Border Leicester.
That's what we thought the sheep were, but the problem was they'd just been shorn.
I think it was either a blue-faced Leicester or a Border Leicester.
I don't think it was a blue-faced Leicester.
Well, I don't either.
I don't think it was blue-faced Leicester. But I'm sure one of you out there, when you see the sheep, if we're wrong, I'm sure you might recognise it.
As Kay says, you'll see it later on in the show. But we did our best to try and make it out. But that's all to come later. So we're looking forward to that. Oh, yes, but yesterday was officially the Stars of Autumn.
It was.
And it was sort of quite cool. Well, it wasn't cool.
It was really warm.
It was quite interesting that summer decided to give us one last blast of warmth.
Well, let's hope it was the last.
What I loved about it, though, was you went outside and it was warm, but actually inside, in the shade, it was really quite cool.
It was fine in the house, yeah, it was fine. It was warm. It was probably in the early 20s. The temperature, and for towards the end of September, for us that's really, really quite warm. But today it's absolutely tipping down.
It's called a proper English autumn
It's
day.
as dark as night.
It's marvellous.
So it's very awesome.
This is why we live here. Neil, it's fair to say we've had a really warm summer.
I think it's been a warm summer.
Well, it has, because we saw those thunderstorms unlike anyone ever seen before.
It was boiling when we were away.
And you have to wonder if that warm summer is what led to the huge spider that we found at the end of the garden.
Gosh, it was massive. It's like a tarantula.
I'm normally cool with spiders, but when I saw this spider, well, I thought, I'm not going to disturb you.
No,
in fact, I was looking at it.
I walked in.
No, don't say anything yet, because there's people out there and they're thinking, that's not a big spider.
Oh, have you got? You took a picture.
I was so disgusted by the picture, I had to delete it.
You deleted it.
But there's more to tell you about the story about the spider. Okay. But you're thinking, my goodness, that's not a big spider, because we have huge spiders where we live. Well, all I'll say to you is this: this spider was so large, not only did it catch flies in its web, it also caught Kay in its web.
It did. I was taking something to put in the bin, some rubbish to put in the bin, and I just walked across the grass and, towards the bins, and then sort of hit this line of, and then, straight away.
It didn't break, did it?
It didn't break. I walked straight into it, and then was like, whoa, and I backed away, and it was still there. It didn't even break, and he'd spun his web on a plant, hadn't he, on a bush. Yeah. So it was all on a bush, but then he'd spun a bit of thread all the way across from the bush up to the corner of the garden shed.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd walked into, and I just bounced off it.
Well, Neil, I saw it the day after, and I walked through the bit that was over the path.
Oh, right.
And, I mean, it was quite strong, and I felt it go. I didn't think anything more of it, put something in the bin, turned round and saw this thing, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
It's massive.
So we left it there, because of course it's doing us.
I'm not going anywhere near it.
But it's also doing us a great
they're
service.
They're eating all the flies and things, aren't they?
So, perfect. So, yesterday or the day before, a spider that looked exactly the same as that was out the front of the house.
Oh, it can't be the same spider.
No, it can't be the same spider. So where have these spiders come from? Because I've never seen a spider like this before. It had a really big body, and like really sort of rounded body, and it had like colours on it.
It was awful.
Never seen a spider like it. And it must be because of the warm weather.
I'm guessing it's probably been a good year for spiders. I don't know.
Is there such a thing? Yes, there is, and it's this year.
Very much of a spider expert.
No, thankfully not.
No.
Now, since we've seen you last, we've been having some fun with eau de cologne. We won't say what it is because at the end of the day, aftershave and perfumes and all of that, it's personal, isn't it?
It's a very personal thing.
And if it works for you, then that's great. So, absolutely, we're not going to say what it is because it might be your favourite, and that's fine if it is. But as soon as Kay sprayed it...
Well, I ordered some... Dan had run out of his favourite aftershave, so
we can say what that is.
His favourite aftershave is Chanel Allure Sport.
Do you have the Allure?
And I've actually got... Oh, I've got it on. I've got Chanel Allure on.
Kate also has the Allure.
I also have the Allure. And I love it. And you love the Sport version. It's the Allure Sport. And
I don't mind the other one. The other one's fine. It's what I'm wearing at the moment.
Oh, no, it's not. Oh, yeah, that one's nice. But the Sport is nicer. So I ordered him in another bottle. He's got his birthday coming up. I said, oh, right, okay, I'll get your bottle. And when you order from the Chanel website, you can choose 2 free samples. So I chose another of their aftershaves to try, and then a teeny tiny mascara. It's fabulous. It's this big, but it's got like a full-size wand. It's great. And so I sprayed the new aftershave that they'd sent on the little card thing that came with it.
What did I say when you walked in with it? As soon as you walked in...
You said it smelled like an 80s disco.
Yes.
It absolutely does.
And Kay followed that up with, it smells like your 55-year-old uncle with wandering hands.
Something like... I don't think I said wandering hands. I didn't say that at all. I think I said something like, at a Christmas party or something. Your 55-year-old uncle at a Christmas party.
Yes.
It just had that smell of an 80s disco.
Yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. And I just threw it in the bin, this little sample, because it was just not very nice. And then the next day, you put it on as a joke.
I just thought for a laugh, let's see what it smells like.
You walked downstairs and I was like...
Oh my goodness.
Is that?
What is that smell?
And the thing is, it was eau de parfum. It wasn't eau de toilette. So it was like really strong, and you only put a little bit on.
I put on like half a squirt.
You could smell it everywhere in the house.
Half a squirt. I mean, talk about pungent. Now, we spoke recently about einkorn bread. I don't know how much we actually said on the video show, but we spoke about it at length on our radio show. On our radio show, actually, thanks to my momentary setback, it did have a little break, but it was back actually last week, and you can go and listen to our episode all about space and is there anybody out there. But I think it was the episode before that, we spoke about einkorn bread, and I think we touched on it here. And the reason why is because, of course, I suffer a little bit with BTS, and as a callback to one of our previous episodes, I think it's it's the episode before last.
Right.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yes. I haven't been able to eat bread, so tried einkorn bread. Brilliant. I mean, like, brilliant. But, newsflash, everybody. Kay's been back in the kitchen.
I baked a loaf using spelt, and it was white spelt. So I made a loaf the other day, and gosh, it looked amazing, this loaf. And it was brilliant because the recipe, I found it from Dove's Farms website, the recipe, and it was like a quick version, and you didn't have to knead it too much, and you could actually knead it in the bowl.
Right.
So you just give it like 100 sort of kneads in the bowl. Yeah.
Wow.
And then you leave it to rise, which I did, and then you knock it back and give it another 100 kneads, put it in your tin, give it its second proof, and then into the oven. And I did all that, and it rose, and it looked like a real loaf.
Yeah.
It looked like a real loaf you'd bought from the shop. I was thrilled, and Brian, you loved it, and you loved it, and and you've been okay.
I've been fine.
And spelt, if you don't know, spelt is a very ancient grain. The Romans used to farm spelt.
Roman soldiers used to carry it with them.
Yeah, and although it does have gluten, I think it's got as much gluten as modern wheat. It's a different structure, and it breaks down much easier, and it's water soluble. The gluten is water soluble in it, so it's much easier for your stomach to digest it. And I think that's what makes it easier for you to tolerate than sort of modern wheat.
Yeah. So if you have trouble eating bread and you haven't tried spelt, I would definitely give it a go.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
I'd say, just have a little bit and see how you tolerate it. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it if you're really, really, allergic type thing. But you're not allergic. You just really find it difficult to tolerate gluten, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, I've got to say, the spelt was fine, but you could just feel it just slightly.
Well, yeah, because it's still a white bread, isn't it? So
but I didn't have any of the issues I would normally have.
They always sit a little bit heavy on you.
The einkorn, it doesn't even feel like I've eaten bread. It's really great and rather strange, because normally you can always really feel it. That's enough talk about bread, because there's way too many lovely things to show you today. So it's time for me to... Speaking of funny voices... Kay did the best impression the other day of Anastasia. Shall I tell you what's brilliant is? She's so funny because she's like, I'm not funny. I don't do silly things. But then every so often, and she's done this the whole time that I've known her, the whole time, every so often she'll do something really funny and you'll laugh your head off. And then you get self-conscious because you think, but it's because she's done something really, really funny. It's because
you're drawing attention to something that I've done and I can't bear it.
It was genuinely, it was hilarious. I was like laughing for ages. And what I love is, there are things that have happened, between us. That sounds really wrong.
That sounds wrong. I don't know where this is going.
I can't even say experiences that we've had together. No,
that
still sounds wrong.
No.
But there are things which I constantly remember and laugh about in my head.
Right.
I mean, that I just, and to this day. I don't know
why I'm not funny at all.
But she is. That's the really funny thing.
Stop.
On that happy note, let's ask Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
Well, my first thing, couldn't remember what was in my bag, and now I do.
Isn't that nice?
It is a little surprise.
Do you have that often when do you think, what's in that bag?
Yeah.
Open it up.
This is one of my favourite bags, actually. It's from Alex Collins.
Yes.
I bought it 2.5 years ago, maybe. It was one of her Christmas ones. It's got little trees on and a little house, and it's got gold accents. I just love it, and I use this all year round, really. I don't see it as a Christmas bag. It's just cute to me, with little trees on, and it's just beautifully made, and I love the fabrics. It's great.
And Alex is the interview in our delayed and about to be published issue of Knitability. Once again, my stupid illness delayed the publication of Knitability.
But so it's on its way.
It is on its way. We had our final submission just the other day.
Right. I've cast on a hat.
Woohoo.
I haven't knit a hat. I can't remember the last time actually I knit a hat. It seems a long time ago. And it's with some yarn that I'm sure I showed you this sometime over the past few episodes that I'd bought it. And I bought it with a hat in mind. And it's Holst garn, and it's the Coast. And the Coast is it's a light fingering weight, and it's 55% lamb's wool, 45% cotton. So it's Holst garn, and it's silver grey. That's the details.
Hard to say, isn't it? Holzgarn yarn.
It is. I find it hard to say.
Maybe they don't
Right.
say that where it comes from. Maybe they just say Holzgarn.
Holzgarn. Yeah.
Because maybe
it's-
garn means yarn.
Well, I'm presuming it does.
So
So what does Holst mean? Maybe that's just the name of the...
it's the name of a composer.
Is it?
Gustav Holst.
Oh, spelled that way?
Yeah.
And he must be from... Was he from... I think it's Denmark, isn't it?
I think so.
DK, I
Yeah.
think that's Denmark. It's a lovely yarn. It is a very light yarn. It's definitely not fingering weight, not quite lace weight, so it is somewhere in between. And this one, because it's got cotton in, it produces a really heathered look when they dye it. And I specifically wanted to knit a hat with it because I've been wanting for ages just a really lightweight hat that I can wear, not really to keep my head warm, more to keep my sort of fringe and hair in control. When you've got that weather that's really sort of damp, going into autumn like now,
Yeah.
because it's not really cold outside,
No.
but it's very damp. And even if I went for a walk now, it's obviously pouring rain, but if I went for a walk now and it had stopped raining, the air would still be really damp, and I'd
Yeah.
come back and my hair is just a frizzy mess, and it really bugs me.
Do you get the same problem if you like go for a walk in mist?
Yeah.
Right.
It's terrible.
So autumn.
You've seen my fringe when
I
I
have.
come back. It just turns into this curl mess.
So autumn must be a nightmare for an awful lot of people.
Yeah,
Yes.
anybody that's got sort of more curly hair and fine hair in particular. My hair's really fine.
And I bet
Just
it's-
has a tendency to frizz.
I bet it's difficult to buy a hat off the shelf
That's really thin.
that would do the job that you're looking for.
Yeah, because hats generally, they're made to keep people's heads warm, aren't they? So they're going to be a certain thickness. But I just wanted something really light, and I thought, well, this will be perfect. So I've cast on a hat. It's just a plain stocking stitch hat. I didn't want to, because it's sort of an experiment, I didn't want to put any pattern in or anything like that. It's just plain. But I've got a nice amount of rib, and you can see I'm just working now up the body, just plain stocking stitch. I've done about 2 inches of rib there, I think, 2 by 2. And I'm using 2.5mm needles. The yarn recommends, I think, 2.5 to 3mm needles. So I thought, well, let's give 2.5mm a go because it's a hat. I don't want it, although it's a thin fabric, I don't want it to be really loosey-goosey or anything. So I thought 2.5 should work, and it's actually producing a really lovely fabric. The stitches look really neat.
I like the finish of it. I think it looks really nice.
I think it looks quite professional.
Yeah.
It looks sort of not machine knit. You know, I
Yeah.
think when it's finished and I wear it, I don't think you'll be able to tell that it's a hand knit hat, which that's not my aim. But I say that just to sort of let you know that I think it produces a really sort of professional looking finish.
It's a really
Stitches
interesting
are
point,
really neat.
though, that you've just raised, and I speak about it actually on my upcoming self-contained knitter show, which I think is coming out next week. And that is when I knit something, and I think you're the same when you knit something, I would say that probably 80% of the time the finish that we're looking for is what you've just described.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is I was sort of pondering around this, and as knitters we could absolutely get a totally crazy handspun yarn. We could knit ourselves a jumper and we could wear it, and it would obviously look hand knit, and knitters would look at it and go, oh, that's great and that's cool, and absolutely sometimes that's really, really cool. But what I certainly aspire to do, and I think you're the same, is I aspire to try and make knitting aspirational for non-knitters.
Yeah.
And a non-knitter will look at something that's obviously hand knit,
Yeah.
and immediately they'll go to that place which is knitting's rubbish.
And you can tell when
And that's
something's
wrong,
hand
isn't
knit,
it?
and it is wrong. And
Because there's nothing wrong with a hand knit thing that looks hand knit.
Oh, absolutely not.
And
no.
once you've sucked them in, they'll then know that. But until you've sucked them in,
I think it's a great thing to convey to non-knitters that you can knit things and actually, they will look like
Something you bought.
Something you bought, and
in fact, they'll look even better.
Yeah, well, I think I obviously think it's even better than something you've bought, because I often think that the finishing on something that you've made yourself is way better. You know, because mass-produced things inevitably don't have that level of finishing. I don't think, unless you pay a lot of money, of course. not that everything I want to produce, I don't want necessarily things to look like I've just bought everything in a shop. I don't at all. That's not what I'm saying. But I think it's just nice now and again to knit something and think, gosh, yeah, I mean, that really looks like something I could have bought. Because, like you say, you might meet somebody and they say, oh, that's a lovely hat, and they're like, oh, I made it, and you're
Yes.
like, what? You've made it? And it might just inspire them to give it a go.
Yes. If
Yeah.
we can be ambassadors for knitting
Yeah.
with non-knitters, and we can suck new people into this graft that we all love, then everybody wins, don't they? Because the people who are making the needles get more business, and the people selling the patterns.
Yeah.
And everybody wins.
Bryony came home from school, was it just yesterday? And
Well, I hope she did come over for yesterday.
she just had a textiles lesson, which has been a bit of a thing because her timetable was wrong when she went back to school, and she didn't have her textiles scheduled in. But we got it sorted, or you got it sorted, I should say. She had a textile lesson yesterday, and she came back and she said she was chatting to the teacher at the end of the lesson, and the teacher was talking about maybe having some clubs running, and she mentioned, the teacher then said, oh, I might start a knitting club. And Bryony said, she says, oh, my face just went, oh, like this. I said, why do you say that? And she's like, oh, I know, but I think it's just because, she's obviously very aware of knitting and sees it all the time, and she was just like, oh, I'm not doing that if they ask us to do that. I said, well, but then I said, you know what? Me and Dad should go and pretend that we're not knitters.
Yeah, and then I said that we should pretend we also don't know each other.
Yeah.
And then we could start this feud where Kay turns up with something, and then the week after I turn up with something else, and then...
And I could go away and come back the next week and take one of my beautiful pairs of hand knit socks or something and say, look what I knit this week.
About 12 weeks later, we'll realise that actually we're deeply in love and we'll get married.
Yeah. So there's my hat. And I cast on, I wasn't sure, it took me a bit of thinking to think, how many stitches shall I cast on? Because, I know how many to cast on for fingering weight and DK and all that, but this is an unknown element, if you like, this sort of weight of yarn. So I actually plumped for, I think it's 152 that I cast on, 2.5mm needles. And it seems to be, the size looks okay to me. The rib's obviously nice and stretchy. And just knowing, what a hat normally looks like, I think it's okay. And I'll just improvise some decreases when I get to the right length. Why are you laughing?
I'm going to make a note of the word plumped.
Plumped.
I like it.
Oh, good.
And I want to use it more in conversation.
Okay.
I feel like Colonel Melchett in Blackadder 4.
Yes, plumped. I plumped for... What did I plump for?
The Arancini.
No, with this hat. What did I plump for?
The needles? I don't know.
The stitches.
The
Was
stitches.
it? Oh, I don't know. Yes, 152 stitches. And I'm just going to knit till it's about 7 inches from the cast on up to before I start the decreases. 7 inches seems to be a good length for me because I like hats to come down over my ears. I can't see the point of having a hat if it doesn't cover your ears, because it's your ears that get cold, isn't it? And although this, like I said, this is not really for warmth necessarily, it just feels more secure on my head if it covers my ears. So there we go. That's my little hat, and
it's lovely.
Yes, we'll see how it goes.
You're doing a review of this.
Yeah, I've done a review of this yarn.
It's a 3-parter.
Yep.
And you've done 2 parts already.
Yeah, I've done Off the Shelf.
The first part, I think, comes out next week.
Right.
And then the second part comes out, I think, a week or 2 after that. And then once you've finished...
Once I've finished it and I've worn it a couple of times, I'll do a final review of it. It's nice to knit with. It took me a little bit of getting used to because it is so fine. And the reason I actually bought some of this yarn is because the Yarniacs, Gail and Charlene, have used this yarn to knit garments. And they live in a really hot part of America, so it makes sense to them to have, lightweight garments. But actually, I think it would make a brilliant garment just from seeing what the stitches look like and what it feels like. I think it would make a fantastic garment, and it's really good value. It's like about $3 or something because the website is in dollars.
Cool.
Dan Jones.
Yes.
What's on your needles?
Well, I'm going to tell you a story. About 3 years ago, I started my garment knitting, and over the last 3 years, I've done more and more of it, and as you know, I've come to love it quite a lot. And in the process of those 3 years, I've also filmed my own show. I did Journey to the Centre of the Yoke, Return to the Centre of the Yoke, and now The Self-Contained Knitter. And the whole point of the self-contained knits, the whole point of this project, which I'm going to show you, is for the first time ever, I want to knit a project which, from start to finish, I'm going to do it all by myself. All on my own.
All on my own.
And it's been a really sort of refreshing and engaging process. Surprisingly so. I just didn't quite anticipate being as engaged with the process when I was knitting it for myself. And I think there's lots of variables as to why that's the case. So I'll certainly try and cover some of them today. So what is it that I'm knitting? Well, we looked at so many different things when I was looking for a project, and I was looking for things for this young lady over here. And, you know, we looked at this, that and the other. And
for me to wear, you mean?
Yes,
right.
yes. I was going to knit you something else.
Yeah.
Eventually, I sort of landed on this particular pattern. And the pattern in question is the Ridari. I don't even begin to try pronouncing the name of the lady here.
Okay.
Because it's properly Icelandic. It's really cool.
It's a really popular pattern.
Yes, and it's linked in the show notes below. So you can go and have a look. It is a paid-for pattern. And I saw this pattern, and I saw this lovely picture within the pattern, and I saw this handsome man stood on a dock with rope on his shoulders. And I love boats, and I love, you know, water and all of that. And I just looked at the jumper, and I just thought, I really want that. Isn't that funny? It's the first time ever.
Yeah, it is the first time you've done that.
In all the years that I've, you know, looked at something. And so the first thing you have to do, and I totally get how people end up failing at this, because the first thing that you could get wrong with a project is picking the wrong yarn. Because if you get the yarn wrong, then it's going to look not great.
Yeah, and also you might not enjoy it as well, you know.
Yeah. And that's a skill which, how do you teach that skill?
I think it's just experience, really. It really is just trial and error and experience. And we're lucky that we can actually look up lots of projects, can't we? And we can see what other people have knit it with. Well, which is always really useful.
The Ridari is the yarn which she used in the creation of the pattern, quite rightly, was Letlopi, which is, of course, from
Iceland.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it all sort of fits. And initially, we were like, oh no, bad idea.
Well, I think I just got a prejudiced view. Preconceived idea.
As do most people who I've spoken to about this.
Yeah. Having never felt a ball of Letlopi, I just thought, it's going to be really prickly, really unpleasant. So I'd always dismissed it. But we thought about it and we looked at all the projects, and almost everybody had used this yarn.
And I just said, do you know what? I love colour work. Let's just go with it.
Yeah.
And the price?
The price was great. It's about £3 a ball or something. It's really good value for money.
Here are two. That's all the yarn I've got.
Oh, that's all the yarn. I've got some labels though.
Yes. The tickets. These are the sort of. Oh well, I'll let Kay show those a minute.
So it's Letlopi by Lopi.
And it uses, I think it's 5. Or is it 4?
4 different colours, I think.
4 different colours. And we just went for it, really, because it was so cheap.
Yeah,
if it'd been more expensive, because initially you were just going to order 1 or 2 balls, wouldn't you?
For the whole jumper, I think it cost somewhere between I think it was like £35, £40, something like that, which is brilliant, really, for a jumper for the size that Dan needed. He's knitting the one off the largest. And I think I actually got an extra ball as well of the main colour, just to be sure.
Now, the funny thing about it is, when you feel it, it does make you think.
When you feel it in your hands, I think it's not too bad. But, you put it against your neck and you can really feel that that's proper wool, It's quite scratchy. However, there's something about it that makes me think it'll be fine to wear.
I also feel the same way that Kay feels. And I think you sort of get more of that feeling of security that it's going to be okay when you actually knit a bit up. And I have knit a bit up.
It's knit quite a bit.
In fact, I've knit more than a bit. Looking at the pattern, I've knit I have knit half the body.
Doesn't seem right, does it? Doesn't seem long enough for you to have knit half the body.
I can just carry on going.
Well, we just measure it on Dan, and if we need a bit more, just knit a bit more.
Here it is, though.
Look.
I mean, look at that. It really... Now, you're all marvelling at how much I've knitted. And I've been knitting this for 4 weeks. In that time, normally with a jumper, I would probably have knit about that much. Seriously, you know this. You've watched me knit enough jumpers to know how much I would have knitted. And I can't quite work out what it is that's making me knit on it loads. And I think that the reason is because the yarn reminds me of handspun.
Yeah, it does.
It's quite thick and thin, so it's interesting to work with. The texture of it has that sort of quality. It looks like an expensive, lovely yarn.
It does. It really looks like the sort of thing that would be hung on a hanger in a posh shop in Iceland.
Yeah, that you'd look at and then look at the price and walk away.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main reason which has inspired me to just keep on knitting with it, because it's not, what it doesn't do is, normally what I find, certainly what I found with the Claire Quat, was that I got bored.
Yeah.
And I think it's because the yarn was all very similar in size.
The yarn is much flatter, isn't it? Although it is a bit heathered, that yarn that you used.
Yeah.
It's not like this. I mean, if I hold it close...
I think it's the thick and thinness, though, as well.
Yeah, it's slightly thick and thin, and it's just got a lot of colour going on. Can you see? There's like quite orangey shades in that particular main colour. And it's really interesting to look at.
And I think I've come to the conclusion that if something feels interesting in my hands, that keeps me engaged.
Yeah, I agree.
And it really does feel interesting in your hands.
I mean, it sheds like the devil. Look at that.
Yeah.
I mean,
now,
it sheds terribly.
I've heard from a lot of people...
And these all look like black, sort of guard hairs that must be falling off.
I've heard from lots of people that the thing to do, and I think you might have said this actually too, is to wash it in hair conditioner.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah.
And that really helps because what we've read and what we've been told is when you wash and block it, it blooms loads.
Blooms, yeah.
I've read in lots of places and people have told me that the wonderful thing about this garments made with this yarn is it's like a wind-proof barrier.
But it's very light.
It's really light.
And it's super light. You know, the yarn itself in the ball, it feels really light. It feels light and airy. It's really interesting, and I think it will produce a garment that you will have forever.
Yes, I've also been told that by
I think it will last you forever, and that's a nice thing, isn't it?
It is.
And I love the colours. You wanted the colours in the actual colours in the pattern.
Because, of course, if you're going to be a self-contained knitter, you need to pick the colours yourself. And so initially, I was like, oh, this is going to be a disaster.
Because there's quite a lot of colours.
But then I just looked. I love the colours that the designer knitted.
There was 2 different colours, wasn't there, in the pattern?
Both were nice.
Yeah, they both were lovely and both would have suited you.
Yeah.
But you wanted this more sort of natural brownie with a slight orange. It's definitely got gold hints running through it. You've just got a bit of black, and then there's this shade, and then there's one in between, isn't there?
Yeah. So this is my sort of big colourwork garment project.
It's lovely.
At the moment. And, certainly given the progress I've made so far, if that keeps up, then there's every chance I'm going to get this finished within sort of 6-7 months. And then get on with something else.
I did get Dan to do a gauge swatch as well.
Yes.
I just cast on like a hat circular. Because it's knit in the round, you have to swatch in the round. So I just cast on and, pretended as if I was knitting a hat. And then gave it to him, and he just knit a little bit just in stocking stitch, and I measured it, and we went up a needle size from the pattern, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's one size up.
But I was getting gauge, wasn't I, straight away?
Not with the recommended needle, no.
But the needle that I didn't have to do a second gauge swatch.
Oh, I think I said I looked at it and judged it and thought that you'd want the size up, so I think that's what I gave him. And I've since measured the gauge on the actual garment, and it's spot on to the pattern. So I've been crocheting some rows on my granny stripe blanket, and I've been really enjoying it. This is the blanket that I'm making that's all in sort of pinks and peaches, because that's just my favourite colours, and it's seems quite indulgent to do it, but then I think, well, why not? I've made so many blankets, and I just give them to Bryony, or well, usually Bryony, to be fair. And I just thought this time I'm just going to make a little lap blanket just for me. So I'm not sure, I honestly don't know where I was the last time I showed it, because it's been a little while, but this is where I'm at. Can you see that on the screen, Dan?
Yes.
Does it look pretty?
Yes.
Oh, isn't it nice? It's probably not quite as bright as it's showing up on the screen, I don't think. It doesn't look quite so contrasty in real life, I don't think, with the colours. But I'm really enjoying it, and I'm just using any yarns I can find that I've got that are sort of pink or peach toned. Or even, you know, sometimes they're more, like this one's a bit more sort of creamy yellowy, but it has got spots of peach in it. Sometimes it's a peach base with like speckles of a brighter colour. Sometimes it's a bit more orangey. That's all fine, but they're all in the same kind of family, aren't they? And I really like that. And I chained 200. I find that 200 is a really good size for a lap blanket for one, or to be a good baby blanket size as well, I think. And I'm using a 3mm hook. It's one of the clover ones, and I love these. They're my favourite crochet hooks. Don't have any problems at all with them. Really nice to use. And I'm just using the pattern that's by Lucy from Attic 24. It's free on her blog. And I'm currently, I know that this colourway is called Obelisk, but I can't remember the name, the dye. It might be Black Elephant, but I'm not entirely certain. But it's like this peach base with specks of brown and like a neon yellow and some orangey shades. It's really, really pretty and perfectly meets my criteria for it. And what I try to do is, if, like for example, the last two colours here that I've put in are more, I mean there's one that's very plain there, this one's a bit more variegated, but then I'll try and break that up and put in one that's more speckly. You can see how it's coming up with pops of different colours on it. I've only just started with crocheting this one. I'm varying the size of the stripes as well. I see lots of these blankets where people have done either just sort of one row or two rows in a yarn and then they'll change it, and I think they look fantastic. I love those. But I want to use a bit more of the yarn, so sometimes I'll crochet an entire 20-gram mini into it. I think this one, this sort of yellowy creamy one, I'm sure that was a full 20-gram mini. I think that's from Kelly Lay. And then sometimes I'll have a 10-gram mini and I'll use all of that. And then sometimes I might just use part of a mini. I like the sort of randomness of it. I think that's really fun. And I actually bought some minis as a present for the blanket a few weeks ago, and I've just not been able to use, I just can't bring myself to use them because they're so pretty. And there's 10-gram minis, and these are from Wild Rose Yarns. Oh my goodness. I mean, look how gorgeous are they. My nails kind of match, don't they, today? They're just so pretty, and they're all perfect for the blanket, absolutely perfect. But I just can't, I will use them, but they're just so lovely to look at. I just ordered some more actually from her. She put up a set, I think it was another 10 set, and it was like more autumnal shades, but there were some pinks and sort of orangey shades in there as well. I thought, I'll pick those ones out and use those in my blanket. But I will use them. I've got to use them because I bought them for the blanket, and they're perfect. 10 grams is great because I'll get about probably maybe 4 rows out of 10 grams. So it's just enough without you getting bored. 20 grams is fine, but I do find myself, I'm like, is that ball finished yet? And so you keep going backwards and forwards. I do like to change the colour a bit more regularly. But these are just so pretty. Oh, they're gorgeous. And I should just use them, shouldn't I? Tell me I should just use them.
Use them.
Thank you. I've also wound up a couple of my yarns. I think this one is Fairy Wings, actually. I think that was the mini I had of Fairy Wings, which again, it's that perfect orangey shade. And then this one I dyed the other day, and because I did a little bit of dyeing the other day, and I'll show you in Endy Bits actually what I dyed. It's for a specific project, but I dyed up this one as a present from a blanket. And this is a kind of very subtle peachy shade. with some little specks of brown in it, and I thought that would be nice for the blanket. I've got a bright pink ready to go in. That's one of Kelly's 10-gram minis, I think. Oh, I've got all sorts in here. That one's West Green Loft. I can't wait to put that one in. Look at that. That one's gorgeous. I've already put a West Green Loft into here, actually, and it crocheted up lovely. It's this here. It's just a tiny bit of leftover that I had, and that was really nice. I do find sometimes I have ripped out colours, actually, because sometimes with certain, it's not so much speckled yarns, it's maybe the ones that are a little bit more variegated. They can sometimes be a bit too regular, and you'll be crocheting along and you can see that you get sort of a regular little lump of a darker colour all the way along like that, and I don't like that at all. It's a bit like pooling, I suppose, isn't it? And I think it would just draw the eye too much. So I have had a couple of minis where I've done maybe half a row and I can see that it's doing that lumpy thing I don't like, and I've just ripped it out and used a different one. It wouldn't bother a lot of people, I know, but if you're making something and it's something special, I just want to make sure that I'm happy with every element of it. So this has been a lovely thing just to work on a couple of rows, you know, whenever, just pick it up, do a bit. I'm not in any rush to finish it, but I've got some lovely yarns in here. I don't even know what some of these are. I think that's another West Green Loft, actually. Oh, I've got a mini from Eden Cottage. I think that one will be nice in there. That's Whispering Grass. That's a beautiful colour, isn't it?
That's a song.
I know. It's by that fella off It Ain't Half Up Mum, isn't it?
Right. Yes, totally.
The
He'll have covered that, though.
Oh,
he won't
right.
have been the original. I can't believe that you know that. Did you find it online or something? Or did you just remember it?
I just remember him doing
classic song. Yeah. I'll have to link that in the show notes
What was
below.
his
It's
name
really
in the
brilliant.
programme?
Oh, he was funny.
It was brilliant, yeah. So I'm just sort of picking this up whenever I feel like it. Oh, that was another one I dyed the other day as well, actually, but I'm not sure if that's too purple to go in. It started out as a pink, but then I wanted to knock back the brightness of the pink, so I threw in a little bit of brown, because that tends to sort of dull the colour and it will make it more of a dusky colour. But then I actually speckled in some purple, and I think it might be too purple, but saying that, I don't know. I mean, if I hold it up against the blanket, I think it might be all right. I don't know if it's too purple. I'll decide. But it's just really fun, and I love, you know, like buying things for the blanket. I know that sounds ridiculous because I'm buying them for me to use, but it feels like a little present for the blanket, and that makes it feel even more special. So I'm really loving that, and I would, if you've never made one of these and if you've never crocheted before, this is a great way, great place to start, I think, because it's so simple. And once you get going, you don't even need to look at the pattern. You just do something very slightly different on the edges. But once you've done a little bit, you can look back and see what it is you've got to do on that edge where you are. It's really easy. So definitely a good beginner project.
Lovely. Look, here it is. It's the Norwegian cowl, and it's
lovely.
Beautiful. And I'm really keen, because I'm literally just about to finish it. I would love to know if anyone has any recommendations for something similar to this, whether it be in a hat form or a cowl form. I think those would be my two choices. I've not missed out anything obvious, because I certainly wouldn't want to do a scarf.
No.
Cowls and hats.
Cowls are great.
I mean, look at it. It looks great.
I love it so much.
It's such a great design.
Can't wait to have it. I could wear that today. It's only about 12 degrees out there.
The pattern's linked to the show notes below, and it's a really sort of challenging colour work knit, because there's lots of sort of different things going on. You know, you might have just a 4-stitch repeat, you might have a 16-stitch repeat, and they're so rewarding to knit. I've got so many favourite bits. I really like that bit where it's all speckly, but then I also really like that bit.
I love the snowflakes are my favourite.
Right.
I think they're beautiful. I just love it. It's gorgeous.
And my plan is now to always have, because I think that's where things went wrong last year with the whole sort of colour work approach. I know I deliberately knit a whole load of the Claire Quat toques to try and nail the technique, and that was really cool because it helped me get to the bottom of yarn dominance and all of that. But what I want now is lots of varied, complex I mean, does that qualify as a complex colour work?
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I would say it
Well,
is. It's only 2 colours, so but
there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
And the problem I found is when I go searching for stuff, because I have started looking. I've just looked on.
Have you looked at the same designer? Because sometimes it might be that they've done other
You see,
things.
I have done that before, but why didn't I do that this time?
I don't know.
That's
usually the first place to go,
Such a
I think.
fool. Well, it's gorgeous. You would love it, and it's going to be great, as you say, to wear. Very, very wearable thing, I think.
And I've actually, because this is DK weight, and we were thinking about what yarns you'd use for the next one. And I didn't have any DK weight in undyed, but I've actually ordered just a little bit of DK weight so that I can dye some up for you.
Well, I don't want that to restrict your recommendations, because I can always knit something with DK after the next thing I knit. If someone comes out with it, like the most brilliant. Have you got any fingering weight in? Yes.
I might have a bit.
Yeah. Okay. So if someone recommends a fingering weight, you could always dye some fingering weight.
Yes, but I've also got loads of fingering weight that would be suitable.
Cool. The yarn is, of course, Queen Mary's Rose and Rose Garden Green. Is that right? Yes.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yes.
But I liked the thought of having one that was... I'll show you the colour actually later, because I've recently dyed some yarn.
Yeah.
But that as a background colour.
Yeah.
And then maybe gold speckled.
Okay.
For, quite a bright... gold,
that sounds great.
Speckly. I think it would be absolutely gorgeous.
That sounds great.
So I might do that.
I like it. The other thing that I really like about this is I like the fact that it's got corrugated ribbing on the top and the bottom. And when I was searching, I found another, I think it was Norwegian cowl again, it was called. And it was fine. The design was fine. It was okay. But then, if it had like an interesting ribbon, I'd have gone for it. But it didn't. It was just like a really plain, sort of boring ribbon.
You can always put in a different rib.
You could, and maybe it'll come to that. But I have a feeling someone will.
I'm sure there must be patterns out there.
I think this bit might be my favourite.
Yeah, it's lovely, and I think it's the fact that using that speckled yarn. The green is like a tonal, and then the pink is really. It's like a pink with orange speckles and dark pink speckles. And I think it's that contrast. I just love the way it looks, the different tones in each of the snowflakes. I think it's just beautiful.
Cool. Great design. Off the needles next time I see you.
Yes.
Very exciting. What else is on your needles?
Well, the last thing I've got in this gigantic bag, and you wouldn't believe that it's such a small project in this gigantic bag. This is one of my bags from Sasha, my lovely Sasha, and if you remember, she made loads of these for the Swish and Flick knit along that we had last year, and I used lots of these for prizes, and of course I kept maybe 2 for me because they're just fantastic bags. And in here is a pair of socks. I know that sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? It's massive, but the reason I'm using a big bag is because I've got 5 balls of yarn in here. And I'm actually sort of striping socks, but I've made up the stripes myself. So hence the need for 5 different balls of yarn. And these are some very sort of traditionally looking spooky Halloween socks. And I'm knitting them for Dan.
Woohoo!
I started them and you were like, oh, are they for Bryony? I'm like, no. He said, are you doing them for you? I said, no. And they're for me. I said, yes. I thought that might be fun for you to have some fun Halloweeny socks.
Now, if anyone's wondering why I'm not being excited about these and talking positively about them, it's because I've been told I'm not allowed to. Okay? So
I did.
I shall just get on with my knitting.
It puts pressure on me because whenever I'm putting pressure on myself, because they'll say, oh, are those those socks? Oh, I love those socks. I can't wait for you to finish those. And then I'm like, oh, I need to finish them fast. That's not what he's saying to me, but that's what my brain hears. So I've said to him, just don't comment on them, and then that's fine. But here they are. I only started these not yesterday, the day before, and I've just picked up the gussets and I'm working down the gusset decreases. So look, aren't they fun? I've just started with the purple. Can you see that lovely purple coming through? And it's just so traditionally Halloween to me, these colours, aren't they? It's just fantastic. And can you see the lovely stitch pattern? I'll tell you what that is in a second. So first of all, the yarns I'm using is Cascade Heritage, and The shades I'm using, I can remember actually, the orange is Pumpkin. That was one that Dan really loved. If you remember from last time I was using it, you said you really loved it. And that's really what inspired me to start these, because it just made me think of Halloween, that colour. And I thought, oh, what other colours have I got that, I could make up a sock with? The black, now, it does look black on screen, doesn't it? It's actually not black. They didn't have, when I went to buy a black...
It's like Steve Martin's suit in Father of the Bride 2.
Yeah,
no,
it
one.
is, it is.
Father of the Bride.
Yeah. They didn't have the black, and they have this one, which is called Night. And when I saw, you can see now, look, it's not black, it's blue. Can you see? But you only really notice it. I mean, from a distance, it looks black, doesn't it? It's black enough for what I want it for. It's only when you hold it in the light you can see that it's actually a really, really dark navy. It's fine. So we've got Pumpkin, we've got Night. This lovely green is Jasmine Green. Fantastic colour. And then the purple is Dahlia. And then I'm using just the Lunar Rock, just that silvery grey for the heel. And I think the colours are just great. Really fun, isn't it? It makes me think of Scooby-Doo. I think it's the sort of socks you'd see in Scooby-Doo. And I'm just doing a broken 1x1 rib, so you just knit the first round, and then on the second round you knit one, purl one. So it fits in perfectly with the knit one, purl one rib, which is what I did. And then you just carry on repeating those 2 rows. And it's really squishy. It's a really cosy sort of feel sock. And actually, because when I said I was doing a broken 1x1, you were like, gosh, won't you get bored doing like the 1x1 rounds? I find doing 1x1 much easier than like a 3x1. I can get into the rhythm, it's very rhythmic, isn't it? Back, forth, rather than a 3x1, which is kind of a bit more,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've done it fairly short. This stitch pattern, I've noticed, normally on a shorty sock for Dan, I do like 30 rounds. But this stitch pattern, I think, sort of does that. I think it sucks in a little bit because I've done 40 rounds here. And that looks shorter than what it would look if it was just 40 rounds of stocking stitch. So I think it does kind of compress it a little bit. So I've done 40 rounds, so I'm doing 20 rounds of each colour. And I did do a bit of maths before I started because I wanted to make sure that I did thickness of stripes that will mean that they're all the same thickness all the way around down to the toe. So I did do a bit of maths, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it will work out with 20 round stripes going right down to the toe. So hopefully that will work. But I'm really enjoying them, and I've done 72 stitches, 2.25 millimetre, and I really wanted to get to that purple because I think it's really fun. I just love that purple.
It is. Cool.
Yeah, really nice. So that's
Excellent.
your spooky socks.
I'd love to say I can't wait to have them, but
Not allowed,
I can't.
no.
I'm not allowed.
It's not waiting at all for them.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to get down to business. Who's ready for another walk in the Dales? Now, the best part about this is, you know when you have to wait for something? Well, not only is this episode lovely, but also this is the start of the most ambitious external filming schedule we've ever done in the history of the Bakery Bears, and that is all because of the wonderful year that we've had. Kay had to do back-to-back pudding clubs at the start of the year because we couldn't get outside. Now, my goodness, the time has come for us to get outside and enjoy it, and that is exactly what we're going to do, because some of the walks that we've got lined up as we run through to the end of the series, I promise you, they're just marvellous. Today's I've been looking forward to for so long because it's a place that we've driven through so many times. But next time is a place which, when I was a kid, I used to watch this lady on the television, probably one of the most famous women from Yorkshire ever. Well, we're going to be going to where she lived her whole life, and that's just going to be outstanding. But enough talk, because it's time for us to get back out walking the Dales with you and me and Kevin and more sheep than you've ever seen in your life.
Welcome to Walking the Dales. For the last 15 years, this gorgeous landscape has been the canvas that my family's life has been painted on. And whilst so many of our adventures start in the car, our favourite way to explore this gorgeous part of the world is on foot. There is nothing quite like walking the Yorkshire Dales. From its rolling hills to its beautiful forests and picturesque villages. In this series, you're going to join us on 7 wonderful walks. Some we know well, but others are brand new to us. Along the way, we'll take in some breathtaking views, and using my famous map reading skills, we might just learn a thing or two. But where are we going today? Welcome everyone to the classical Yorkshire Dales and a walk which I've been looking forward to all series. Now, what exactly do I mean when I say classical Yorkshire Dales? Well, I'll tell you. In 1974, thanks to a government county realignment, the border between Durham and Yorkshire was moved. And so this gorgeous part of the Yorkshire Dales suddenly found itself on the outside looking in. Now, I'm normally a rule follower, and this isn't technically the Yorkshire Dales, but in this case, I'm going to make an exception. Because how can a part of the world as absolutely gorgeous as this not be included in our series? See, I told you it was rather pretty, didn't I? And the fact remains, for thousands of years, this was part of the Yorkshire Dales, and it is still to this day categorised as classical Yorkshire Dales. So today we're going to be walking through an area which I've wanted to come to for as long as I can remember, because there are stately homes, there are gorgeous woods, there's absolutely loads of sheep, and there's a lane on this walk that is nationally renowned. So I think we should stop talking and we should get walking as we go and enjoy another walk in the Dales. So welcome everyone to Swaledale. We're making our way into the village of Hertford to start our walk, and this was once a very special place because it was once the manor of a very important family. Think the Crawleys of Downton Abbey, except here it was the Craddocks of Hertford Hall. It's actually a bit of a mystery because the hotel now appears to be closed. But all is not lost because the house was actually sold quite a few years ago to pay death duties. So the lord of the manor needed another home. And we're going to be walking straight past it today. It's built about 18 years ago and I'm told it looks gorgeous, and it's just through this village down here. As we leave Home Farm behind us, this is a walk which feels very different to all that's gone before. It feels more like we're walking through an estate, like Chatsworth maybe, or Downton of course. But things are about to get a whole lot wilder. One of the things I just love the Yorkshire Dales for, as I walk through this really beautiful field, absolutely full of sheep, is the variety of walks that there are available. You can go from crazy moorland, you know, up serious heights, to a much more sedate's the wrong word, because today's walk is quite lengthy, but it's much flatter because we're lower down in the dale. And actually, it's another dale, Swaledale, which is famous for its cheese. I don't recall though, I definitely had it when I was young, but I don't think I've had it for a little while, which is, I think, something I'm going to have to remedy, because as I recall, it's absolutely delicious. It's particularly appropriate too that we're just surrounded by all these sheep, because Swaledale cheese was traditionally actually made with ewe's milk. The version I've had though was made with cow's milk, so it's definitely not traditional Swaledale. Look at these gorgeous sheepies. Well, that's no good. It's a public footpath, but there's no public access due to forest operations. They must be doing work in there. So we're going to have to take a detour. Map checked, and we're on the right path. And thankfully we've got no more woods to walk through now, so there can't be any more detours. And I'm actually really excited that we're coming this way, because we were detouring off our main route to take a look at this Jagger Lane, and now we're going to walk straight down it. And talk about walking through history, because this lane was created just by chance, by guys with their horses and their carts dragging their be all sorts, from the mining stuff, so lead and tin, but also probably cheese, with the monks, of course, who, as we found out in our Wensleydale episode, monks brought cheese making here as well. So there'll be all sorts coming down Jagger Lane, and now we're going to get to walk straight down it. But take a look at this. Just beautiful. My goodness. There's just gorgeous little river crossings all over the place. It is an absolutely stunning part of the world. And it is literally sheep as far as the eye can see. Just look. So our little detour has brought us to one of the things I've been looking forward to seeing on this walk, probably more than anything, and it's Jagger Lane. Now, I'm not talking about the Rolling Stones. Oh no, this is a road that's been here for thousands of years, and this is it. What a place. You can just feel the atmosphere. I mean, a road made just through constant movement of horses and carts, and I mean, just look at it. And as roads go, as ancient roads go in the UK, this is a really famous one. And I can't believe I've never come before. I only actually thought there's quite a lot of roads like this down south. You know, once you get sort of south of London, there's an awful lot of these types of things. But here is our very own. I think it would be wrong of me not to get down and just have a little walk along Jagger Lane itself. It just is, it's so beautiful today because there's just nobody here apart from you and me and a whole load of sheep that are just getting up now as I walk past. There's something that I always enjoy, and that is when you can walk in the footsteps of people who've gone before you. And sometimes it's difficult to know, isn't it, exactly where people have been. And here is a road made by men and women and horses and carts. I love it. So as we leave Jagger Lane behind us, it's time for us now to go in search of a place called Gilling West. I've driven through it many times over the years. I've always wanted to visit, and it turns out it's a very, very special and important place. So whilst I check my map and find out which way to go to get there, you guys go off for a little breather, and I'll see you later on for more Walking the Dales.
Ladies and gentlemen, was my perfect walking weather.
Yes.
Not too warm.
No.
Not too cold. Even a little bit of rain in the air.
Yeah.
I really didn't mind. And my goodness, I have never before seen, I didn't even know that sort of brand new stately homes existed.
No.
And I think that this happens quite often.
Right.
You know...
They'd had to sell the big house,
years
they?
ago, to pay death duties.
Yeah, which happened a lot.
Well, Chatsworth, of course, opened to avoid having to sell.
That's how Chatsworth survived.
And I'd be willing to bet lots of places did it the same way.
And it probably was it was probably a little bit earlier than the 80s, but not much earlier, was it, with Chatsworth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they sell Hertford Hall, becomes a hotel, and I'm sort of fascinated to know what's going on there now, because you can't find out much at all.
Right, so you say it's not open?
It's not. The hotel's closed.
Right.
It's gone. All the signs are down.
Goodness.
So to me it looks like there's no intention for it to reopen. It's not like it's been bought and... Maybe
they're trying to sell it or something. But
well, no, I think it's been sold. I think it's been sold and purchased by someone else, because I don't know if you noticed from the footage, there was activity around it. There was tractors, things going on. So, maybe it's bought by a private owner.
Maybe so.
But Home Farm... just look lovely, look really pretty, and it's actually won some architectural awards.
Right.
And, I'm really not surprised, because whilst you can tell it's new because the brick looks pretty new.
I mean, they would have obviously had to get planning, so it would have passed the requirements.
Well, it looked like the same stone that farm buildings that I think have been there for a long time were, it's exactly the same.
And lovely that they've stayed in the same area. They've managed to at least stay in the same area that they've always been. Well,
it's such an interesting story for the family who lives there, because they were out in Ireland, because that's where they moved to. They decamped to another of their, the houses that was in their portfolio of properties. So they moved there, and then they've just decided that house is too big, So they've sold that, and that's gone into private.
Right.
That was a home, I can't remember what it was called, but it's in Ireland, and that was a home which was visited.
Right.
You know, as people go around, it's been bought privately, and
Gosh,
and
wow.
now it's a private house.
Gosh.
I mean,
It's kind of good in a way that it's a private house still, but then you think, crikey, that must have cost a lot. And the upkeep of these places is huge, isn't it? Which is why they all end up as, holiday flats or hotels.
well, it is, but then how strange to think that we've just spoken about two properties, because it looks like Hartforthall is now back in private ownership, and wherever this place was in Ireland is now back in private ownership and not being visited. It's not generating an income.
It's just a house,
It's
just a home.
As Kay says, it is sort of nice that these places that were built as homes are still homes.
Yeah.
But
There's not many.
no. We're only halfway through. Will we find Gilling West? And what of the treasure that was discovered in Gilling West when I was 1
Wow.
in 1976? Will we find out about it? Of course we will. And you'll find out all about that and so much more when we come back later on in the show with the second part of Walking the Dales. Because now is time for me to ask Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
Yes, I've got 3 things. Oh, how lovely. I'm very excited to have some finished things. So the first thing I finished is a pair of socks.
Can I just tell everyone, actually, I'm worried that people think I might be drinking a Tom Collins. This is not
Is that
a
what Tom Collins looks like? What is Tom Collins anyway?
It's an alcoholic cocktail.
I know it's alcoholic. Is it gin and something?
I don't know.
Don't know.
But this is fresh lemonade, ginger and water.
That's acceptable.
It is.
You can carry on drinking that.
It's acceptable.
Acceptable.
Yes.
So
She's back on the telly.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Super Nanny.
USA.
She went
New
to
series.
America.
Well, it seems she's not been around for...
I haven't seen her
What's
for
her name?
years.
Can you remember?
I can't remember.
Have you seen Super Nanny?
What's the lady's name?
Well-
she's from is it Essex or somewhere like that?
I wonder if she still puts people on the naughty step.
She's got a really strong accent, hasn't she?
Yes.
I'm sure she does put people on, well, not people, children on the naughty step.
But she always used to say,
Some people I know should go on the naughty step.
that's not acceptable.
Not acceptable. She had a great accent. Loved
Yes.
it. So yeah, I finished this pair of socks. This is the socks that I knit using the Afterthought Everything technique. So I think the last time I showed you these, it was just one big long tube with a cuff top and bottom. So I split it. I put in Afterthought heels. This is I'll just hold you one up. It's difficult holding 2 socks, isn't it? This is my umbrella heel, which is part of the umbrella socks pattern. They are a toe up Afterthought heel pattern. And this is the heel that I actually designed. It's based on my umbrella toe, which is here. But I complained. I changed pretty much, not everything, but I really sort of deconstructed it and then built it back up again based on how I wanted it to fit over a heel, because quite often you see with Afterthought heels, basically all you do is you knit a toe where the heel is, and it's exactly the same as the toe. I just think that to me doesn't seem like the right thing to do, because
Well, it would do
heel,
if heels were the same shape as toe.
exactly. I mean, everybody's different, and I know that those types of heels do fit a lot of people, and that's fantastic, but they don't fit me really well, and they certainly don't fit Dan, and I don't know whether I ever tried a pair on Bryony, but I just felt like I wanted to design a heel that fit me, and I know a lot of people that have this same issue with Afterthought heels. So I designed this heel, and it's much more roomy than a normal straightforward sort of toe, let's say, that you place in where the heel goes, and it fits great. It doesn't stretch really at all over this area, certainly with my feet and with Bryony's. And have you got them on today? No, you've not got them on today, but you've got a couple of pairs where I've put in Afterthought heels for him, and they fit you really well as well. And we've all got high insteps and sort of a broad area across this sort of heel to front of the foot, so it fits really great. So I popped in the umbrella heel, and then I've also done the umbrella toe. Oh, and aren't they pretty?
Yeah.
Oh, I just love them. And this yarn was a gift from a lovely friend. I've had it for a little bit, actually. It's from Candy Skein, And this is how long I've probably had it. It was the April 16 colourway, 2016, and it's raspberry orange sorbet. And I've got quite a lot left, which is good. It's probably a bit too purple to go into my blanket, the pink and peach blanket, but I'll put it into, everything else that's sort of scrappy. And the heels and toes, that's both of them together. The heels and toes is Cascade Heritage again, and this is my absolute favourite colour from Cascade Heritage, and it's called Chanterelle. Oh, it's just a gorgeous pinky peachy sort of colour. Oh, I absolutely love it, and I've used it again in something I'll show you in a second. Like I said, it's my favourite colour, and I think it just picked up these lighter tones perfectly, and I think they look absolutely gorgeous, so I'm really thrilled with those.
Brilliant.
So I'll keep those. I think they'll be for me because the yarn was a gift for me, so
yes.
I think it'll be nice for me to keep those.
Yeah.
I finished another pair of socks. So you have got a pair of socks.
Amazing.
You can have.
Oh, they're lovely.
I finished these ones for Dan.
Aren't they gorgeous?
And these are knit with the London House yarns. And it's in the Papillon sock set. I've got that left. And I've got to say,
These are my perfect socks.
Yeah, I mean, what I said about these socks last time, I made an error in what I said. I got it backwards. Because I don't know if you remember, but I said that I messed up and I knit 15 rounds on one and 16 rounds on another for the cuff. So I thought that would mean that I was going to end up with one of the toes with a little bit of this coral colour. But it meant the opposite. I actually had more of the white left than on the other sock. So it was totally fine. And I didn't realise till I got right down to the toe and I looked at how much white I'd got and I'm like, oh, I was totally wrong in what I said. I got it backwards. So everything was fine, and they do match really nicely on the toes, which is good. So for this pair, I did a 1x1 rib and then a 3x1 broken rib. So you knit around and then you knit a round of knit 3 purl 1.
It just honestly looks absolutely perfect. It really does. Compared to my other favourite socks, the Boba Fett ones you did, they look pretty much the same.
They are the same.
They're pulling in the same.
Yeah.
But you changed it though from that because
On the Boba Fett ones, I did a full 3x1 rib.
Yeah.
And it just was doing my head in. So that's why I did a broken one on this, just to give me a bit of a break. And I used the contrast just for the heels, which I think worked really nice. I used a square heel turn, because that's what I did on your Boba Fett ones, and they fit really nicely. So you get this lovely square strap sort of underneath your heel. It sits really nicely. So they're all finished, washed, blocked, and you can have those now.
That's marvellous. I'm too excited though about the next things you're going to show.
So now, it's another BTS moment, everybody.
Yes. Not IBS.
No, not IBS.
BTS.
So Ali, Little Drops of Wonderful.
Yes.
Ali is a friend, and her daughter, who's the same age as Bryony, Lilia, is also crazy about BTS. So this next item was totally inspired by BTS, and I made them obviously for Bryony. So Lilia will completely get the references, and Ali, you probably will as well, because if you like us, it's that constant stream of BTS, isn't it? It's a pair of fingerless mitts, and two things inspired these fingerless mitts. The first is in the Dynamite video, which is a new song of BTS's. At one point, it's towards the end, they all have on these pastel coloured outfits in sort of shades of blue and lilac and lemon and cream and sort of a pinky colour. So I looked at the colours and like, oh, they're really lovely, those colours. I'd like to just do something with that. So I kind of got a screenshot of it, so I knew the sort of colours. But then also, an Instagram friend sent me a post from someone else on Instagram that I didn't know, but they'd recently posted about a jumper they were making, and their inspiration for the jumper was actually a jumper that one of the BTS members was wearing. Now, I did know about this jumper because Bryony had shown me a picture of it when he wore it, because, he'd got this knitted jumper on and she showed it to me. So I was aware of it, but it was lovely to see it again. And the jumper, it was worn by Taeyoung, who is Bryony's husband-to-be, is all I can say, really. She's absolutely obsessed by him. And he had on this jumper, and it was old Shale pattern all over it. So I thought, right, I can do that. I can knit some fingerless mitts for Bryony, and I can use the colours from the video, and I can have a look at the pattern and see if I can work it out. Now at first I just thought it was a straightforward old Shale pattern, which is sort of like feather and fan, but when I looked at it more closely, it actually isn't. It was more involved than that. So I've deconstructed it. I zoomed in on the photo and deconstructed it, and I think I got it, and I've popped it onto some fingerless mitts. So look, here we go. Oh look, aren't they sweet? And then it's just plain stripes on the other side. And they're so pretty, aren't they? So if you can see the stitch pattern, there we go. It is old Shale, but then it's separated with these bands of garter, and then you've got a sort of bigger gap in between the wavy bits. I think old Shale is a 4-row repeat. This ended up being 12 rows by the time I charted it out. And it fits lovely on the front of a mitten, and it would also fit lovely on the front of a sock as well, you know, because it's just that band on the front of a sock. And I thought at first I thought, shall I do her socks? And then I thought, no, I'm not, because she loves wearing fingerless mitts. She wears, do you know the rainbow pair that I made her, was it last year sometime? She wears those all the time for school, and that's actually what I based these on. I made some really good notes when I made those ones, and I just followed those, but then inserted that panel and striped the yarns. So again, I used Cascade Heritage for these, because I've just got a lot of Cascade Heritage, and I had all but, did I have all of the colours? No, I had all of the colours. I didn't have to buy any for these at all. So going down, the cream is Snow, this blue is Anis, A-N-I-S, this again is Chanterelle. Now this one, I think it's either Iris or Lilac. I can't remember which. I think it's Iris, but like I say, it could be Lilac. And then it's Lemon underneath that. And I think they're just lovely. So I used a 56 stitch cast on, and I knit these with 2.5mm. And I posted a picture of these on Instagram, and I got lots of people asking me if I was going to write the pattern up. And I think I might do. I think I might do that actually. It'll be next year probably, now when I get around to sort of having the time to do it. But I enjoyed knitting them so much that I think you know others would as well. And so I'll take some photos of these before I give them to Bryony, just so I've got some photos if I do decide to write up the pattern. But I just, you know, I did a proper, I love the thumb gusset actually. It's really, I think it looks really neat. Can you see the thumb gusset? It just fits really well. I just love them. I can't wait to give them to her. I think she'll love them. And I didn't make them matching deliberately. I'm not keen on matchy. I like the look that they're both individual, but you can see they're a pair. What I did was, this was the first one I knit, and I ended on the lemon. So I just carried on with this one where the lemon stops. So if you look at them like that, they do follow on. So I'm really pleased with those.
They're lovely, and she's going to love them.
She will love them. She knows that she can have them after school. So, yeah.
Folks, it's time for us to get back on our lovely walk in the Dales and go in search of the fascinating village of Gillingwest.
Yes.
Welcome back to Walking the Dales. Would you believe it? We're actually catching the bottom end of Hartforth Wood. This is the wood that we'd intended to walk right through. It's just over there actually. We've just picked up the bottom side of it now. So it shows that I am on the right track, thankfully. My famous map reading skills are keeping me honest today, thank goodness. Now, we're in search actually. It's going to get easier underfoot, which is good. It's nowhere near as hard as our last walk today, but I'm actually quite looking forward to getting onto some roads because we're now on the trail of Gilling West. We're now actually making our way down Waters Lane, and it's called such because you can see just down there there's loads of fish ponds and they've been there for generations. It's because the valley dips right down and all the water condensates down the bottom, and people still use them today for fishing, but they've been there for an awfully long time. I just love freshly ploughed fields. I don't know why. I think it's growing up where I grew up. We're surrounded. I mean, it's very similar to this actually, except nowhere near as hilly. But the smell, and I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a boy as well, and tractors, and you know, just loving. Actually, I remember when I was young, they used to have this amazing farm. It was made of plastic, sadly, but there was like a road for the tractor and there was barns and all sorts, and I'm convinced it's because of where I grew up, and I think that's why now he's up there somewhere. I think he's going to come back and do that bit any minute. And there in the distance actually you can still see Hartforth Hall and Home Farm. And it does feel decidedly estate-esque. It's very sort of, it feels a little bit Chatsworthy, especially when you get out onto these estate roads. Such a difference to the other walks that we've done so far in the series. Now, this area is just absolutely beautiful, and there's actually a really exclusive wedding venue, and I think it's a place where you can stay as well. I think they do bed and breakfast, and they've got cottage and all sorts, and it's just down here on the left. It's an absolutely vast complex actually, and it does look really posh, and it's sort of cool to see this in this landscape. It'd be a beautiful place to get married. taken a look at their website actually, and it does look seriously exclusive. I'll link it in the show notes too, so you can take a look as well. But there's our destination ahead of us. It's the gorgeous Gilling West. It's just one more rather fancy looking style. I think I'm gonna have to get my leg over on this one. This is not gonna be pretty. Thank goodness I'm tall, but it's too low down that side. Oh my goodness. Made it. Wow. Come on, let's go take a look. And the best part is St Agatha's is open to this day. People flock here to get married. And can you imagine getting married here and then having your reception up at the venue that we saw earlier? It'd be just perfect, wouldn't it? But Gilling West has an awful lot more to offer. So let's see if we can find the main street and see what we can find out about this really interesting place. Now that's all super interesting, isn't it? But it's not very exciting. It's really hard to imagine what Gilling West would have been like 1,000 years ago when it was one of the most important towns in all of Anglo-Saxon Britain. But every so often, Gilling West likes to remind us of its heritage. Just ask Gary Frid. It's just amazing to think that down there someone pulled a 1,000-year-old sword. Can you believe it, ladies and gentlemen, but our walk is nearly over. But my goodness, I've loved every second of this one. What I've loved so much about this walk is its accessibility. It just shows you that Dales has got something for absolutely everybody. But also, what I've loved about the story that we've discovered is the foundation of the Dales is tied to the very foundation of England itself. But folks, that's it. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time for more Walking the Dales.
What a walk, ladies and gentlemen.
Lovely.
And when I think about, and this is one of the reasons why why we've loved, developing this series and because you get stuck, not in a rut, but, over the years, how many times have we said, oh, we should go for a walk, where should we go? And we end up going to the same old places. It takes something like this, where you go, right, okay.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of Walking the Dales is to take you on some walks we know, but to take you on lots of walks we don't know. And this place is like 10 minutes away. And this is a walk that we're going to do regularly because it's just lovely.
Beautiful.
I mean,
it's the perfect length as well, I think, just for it's a full morning or a full afternoon.
And the beauty of it is, there's so many paths flying around there. You can. Maybe you got halfway around and you think, oh, do you know what? I'm a bit shattered. You can just take a shortcut and you can end up, back where you started from. Yeah. But what's so great about it is I think sometimes walks can be slightly boring if they're all the same.
Yeah.
When you've got variety in
changing
a walk,
scenery is lovely, isn't it?
Yes. And I think as well, when you are walking through history like Jagger Lane. And
that was great, wasn't it?
And I had no idea that a Jagger was a man who did a horse and cart.
That's really interesting. I used to work with somebody and his surname was Jagger.
Well, and
there's obviously Mick Jagger as well.
And do you know what? Mick Jagger, you sort of look at that name Jagger and you think, oh, do you know, it's sort of a bit cool. And you probably think that because of Rolling Stones. And you think, oh, maybe it's like not a real... Well, of course it's a real thing. And his family... And anyone called Jagger will come from people who used to use Jagger Lane.
Yeah.
Well, not Jagger Lane.
No.
Lanes similar to that all over the country.
Amazing.
And folks, if you enjoy Walking the Dales as much as we enjoy Walking the Dales, we need you, because that show, as well as everything we produce, is made possible thanks to our wonderful Bakery Bear patrons.
Yeah.
So if you would like to find out all about how you could become a Bakery Bear patron and you could access more of what we do, then follow the link in the show notes and it tells you everything you need to know about joining our Bakery Bear community.
And we've got a P.O.P coming up on Sunday, so you could join in.
Well, she has preempted, she the cat's mother, well, she was. And then poor Lucy, she died. Your lovely
My
cat.
Lucy.
Yes.
Yeah, Lucy was the last cat that I had, and she passed away, gosh.
2014.
Yeah, 6 years
Yeah.
ago now, but she was 19.
Yeah.
She was a really
It's a good knock.
age. Yeah, she was a really good age, and I've not had pets since because I just can't face it.
Kate's pet.
Yeah.
Kate's preempted the first of the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
Because, yes, we have a P.O.P, a patron-only show, coming up live on Sunday at 2 p.m. British summertime.
Yeah.
So that's available to Silver, Gold and Platinum Bakery Bear patrons. They can watch it live. And then at 3:10, the recording of the show becomes available to all Bakery Bear patrons. So don't miss that. Yes.
And it's such great fun because the difference is we can chat with you. You know, we go backwards and forwards. We can see your comments and we can talk to you and we can answer questions.
So we do great things,
Just really
like Kay
great.
said. We do a great segment called Ask the Bears, where you can ask us questions live on the show, and then we answer as many of them as we can. But there's lots of other great segments as well.
Yeah.
So that's coming up on Sunday. But you have some things to show us.
I bought one thing and I've made another thing that I'm going to show you. But the thing that I've bought is a ball
What is
of...
it? Is it yarn?
Do you know it is? It shouldn't come as a shock, should it really? But it's a ball of opal yarn. I haven't bought any opal yarn in a long time because I do have one of these cubes is full of not just opal but similar sorts of yarn to that, and I do have quite a lot of opal. But this one, I'm sure, I don't know where I saw it. It will be on Instagram, won't it? Because everything comes from there. And I saw somebody knitting it and I thought, gosh, I don't recognise that line, because I'm not aware of the most recent sort of colourway lines that they've put out. And I saw this one. I thought, that's fantastic, I've got to go and find one of those. And of course, I couldn't find it anywhere. I eventually did find it on eBay, I'm pretty sure. I think it was eBay. And I think the reason that this is sold out is because it looks like a Christmas colourway. And it's not, but it looks like one. And whenever Opal put out these colourways that look very Christmassy, they do have a tendency just to sell out. And this is the colour. It's Opal Magic Sky.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What is going on with the ribbing on that sock?
Oh, it's like, oh, look at me, I did that. I did that. I'm trying to zoom in on the label. What does that say about the modern world? I mean, how hilarious is that?
What's going on with that?
Can you see it?
What do you think they've done? Is it cuffed?
Yes,
Right.
it's like it's been done on a machine, a knitting machine. So
Right.
ribs on a knitting machine, I think they tend to be double, don't they? And then
So they've knit the rib
It's
long and
like
then
a-
cuffed it over.
yeah.
It's just funny though that it looks so much bigger than the rest of the sock.
Well, it's on they've done that deliberately, haven't they? It's on some kind of special blocker to make
Right.
it look like, so you know that bit's the rib, I
I
think.
think it looks odd.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just saying.
So it's Opal Magic Sky, and it's this colourway name. I'm not going to try and pronounce it, but you can see the number there. And it's just so traditionally Christmassy. And if you notice as well, there's sparkle in there. It's a sparkle yarn. Now, I have used, or I have had a sparkle yarn before from Opal, and I didn't like it. I found the sparkle to be really scratchy. So I was kind of a bit, should I try this? But I think they've done something to it because it isn't like it used to be. It's absolutely fine. So they must have put a different sort of sparkle in there, or they've changed it, I don't know. But it doesn't feel as scratchy as it did before. But then, that was some time ago. So I think these will make a lovely Christmassy pair of socks. I mean, that's just so cool, isn't it? It was I don't know if it was like Shooting Star or something like that, but I could be wrong. That might have been one of the other colourway names from the range. So I really love that.
Beautiful.
And then I dyed up a couple of skeins of yarn, and this is for a very special project. One of our lovely family members has asked me recently for a pair of socks.
How amazing.
And
First time ever.
first time she's ever asked me for a pair of socks, and I was just absolutely thrilled. And she sort of asked me a bit like with trepidation, I know you're really busy, and she's like this, and I was like, oh my gosh, I will totally knit you a pair of socks. She's just gone off to university, And she wanted a pair of cosy socks to wear with ankle boots. She just thought that might be really nice, and I was absolutely thrilled. She told me the sort of colour that she wanted, and she said a sort of orangey brown. And she actually sent me a picture she found on Pinterest. She'd obviously done quite a lot of research. So I thought, right, okay, I know the sort of colour you want, and spoke to her about it and worked it out and got a foot size and all of that business. And then I went looking for some yarn and just couldn't find the right colour in the right sort of yarn base, and I just said to Dan, this is silly, I'm just going to dye some. So I dyed up a couple of shades, and I've sent her a picture, and she actually loves them both, so I'm going to choose one of these to knit socks. So these are the two that I dyed up. Oh, aren't they both lovely?
Yeah, really gorgeous.
This one, I mixed two different shades. I used a sort of brown shade and then an orange shade. I can't remember exactly the colours, but I threw them both into the pot, and then what I do if I'm trying to judge the colour is I'll swirl it around and I'll get a spoon and just lift it up and just watch it drop back down, and that gives me an idea on what the colour's going to look like. So this one I was really pleased with. It's definitely it's like a sort of chestnut, isn't it? Or conker. I don't know, but it's...
Yeah.
It's definitely got some orange in it, but it is more brown. And then I thought for the second go, I'd put more orange in it. So this one's got 3 shades in. It's got 2 different oranges and then that same brown, but not as much. So this one's come out much more sort of ginger. But I love them both, aren't
Gorgeous.
they?
Yeah.
They're both really gorgeous.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure which I'm going to choose. I'm not sure, but I'm going to get these cast on this week, and I think I'm going to design something for her as well.
Amazing. And of course, they'll see it next time.
You'll see it next time.
Yeah,
You'll
so you'll
these
see
socks.
how it knits up.
Yeah, you'll see these socks next
Very
time.
excited.
So I'm really excited to start that, and the colours are just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Love them.
Folks, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. It's been wonderful to see you. And, now is the time. There's been so many people so excited about Walking the Dales coming back.
Yes.
And, now is the time we can properly sit down, relax. Or at least you can, because I'll be travelling all over the Yorkshire Dales, taking you on lovely walks. And it's going to be just such great fun. So... that's it for today. We'll see you in 2 weeks when we'll be back
2 weeks.
with episode 160.
160.
And another wonderful walk in the Dales.
Yes.
But in the meantime, take good care of yourselves.
Yes.
We'll miss you.
We will.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks for more.
See you soon.
Bye.
Sitting and knitting, standing cable bakery prayers. Enthusiasm's not quitting, fitting and cable bakery prayers. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in